Hello, friends. Welcome to Traces. I'm your host, Emily Oman, and today we conclude our series on dreams. I wanted to give you a whole list of symbols so that you can start interpreting your own dreams. This is because when I first started working with my dreams, I couldn't find a cohesive resource. And not to say that this is a cohesive resource, it's just things that I've picked up so far. I'm going to be pulling from Marion Woodman, from Robert Bosnack, the dream researcher Kelly Bulkeley, I think is that how you say his last name. Carl Jung, of course, because these are all like Jungian people. And then Joseph Campbell and that podcast, This Jungian Life. Now, I recommended this podcast on the last episode. It's great. I usually listen on 1.25 speed. But I love it because not only do they have fascinating topics, but they also analyze a dream at the end of each episode. Now they have this thing called Dream School, and it's very expensive. It's not expensive for what they give you, but just like for the average lay person, I can't afford to do Dream School. But one day I hope to. Anyways, they're coming out with a book called Dreamwise. The subtitle of that is, where is that? Dreamwise, a guide to unlocking the meaning of your dreams. So that comes out in, I think, the middle of November. So I'll do a little research on that when it comes out, tell you what I think, see if I recommend it. And perhaps that will give us more resources to learn how to interpret our dreams. But for now, I'm just going to give you what I know. And I'm not an expert, as we have established. I'm just really passionate about this. The reason why I'm so passionate is because I think it's transformative. I think this is the most, I think it's more beneficial than any sacred text. I know that's a controversial statement, but I really do believe it. I think sacred texts have, of course, their place in our world, but the value is just so incredible. It's more valuable than a guru or like, some prophet, because this is directly from the source, right? And we have to be careful when we dive into interpretation, not to go with our first impulse, I think a lot of times it's easy to make assumptions for our dream interpretations that are beneficial to our ego. That's probably an indication that you're not interpreting it correctly, because remember, this is balancing our psyche. So if there is some way in which our psyche feels off, we're going to do that compensatory, like if you're being arrogant during the day and your unconscious is like, whoa, chill out, then you might be brought low in a dream. Or, for example, if you need to work on an aspect with your shadow, like I'll get to that. Just give me a second. Okay. So take everything with a grain of salt. If something doesn't resonate for you, just don't worry about it, right? And hopefully we'll get more resources as we go along. But just to get us started, let's just get us started, okay? I'm going to quote Jung for us to begin here. The whole dream work is essentially subjective, and a dream is a theater in which the dreamer is himself the scene, the player, the prompter, the producer, the author, and the critic. This simple truth forms the basis for a conception of the dreamer's meaning, which I have called interpretation on the subjective level. Such an interpretation, as the term implies, conceives all of the figures in the dream as personified features of the dreamer's own personality. End quote. That's pretty great, right? So it's all a theater, and all the characters, all the parts of the dream are aspects of our psyche. Okay, so we'll start with the I in the dream. This is your POV, your point of view as you're going through the dream. This is called the dream ego. And this is usually representative of your habitual consciousness. I think I mentioned that in an episode with Natalie. But this is like how you see the world, right? Okay. And then if there's someone that you really like despise in real life, I was about to talk about this before I started. So let's say somebody I really despise is in my dream, and I wake up and I'm like, why was I dreaming about this person? It's probably drawing attention to my shadow. Shadow, of course, is all the things that you're unconscious about yourself, that you haven't integrated into consciousness. And for some reason, we're really judgy about all of these things. I don't really know why, because shadow doesn't necessarily mean it's negative. It's just unknown to us in our conscious state. So anyways, you can pay attention to that. Just as the characters of your dream represent aspects of your psyche, if you find yourself in a building, this usually represents your interior landscape. So this can mean your mental environment or your physical body. So that is to say, if you're in a basement, your dream maker may be calling attention to either your unconscious, right? The deep under, like all the way in the bottom, right? The stuff that's usually dark and unseen. That could be your unconscious, or it could be about your lower extremities, right? Marion, I think, has compared the house to the body's chakra system. So, like, for example, if you're in the attic, it could be relating to your crown chakra. It could also be relative to your higher consciousness, right? So if this is your mental landscape, it could just be thinking more highly, or what would it look like if I had a higher vantage point, right? Things like that. So you can think of buildings or homes in terms of the body. Similarly, if you are in a vehicle, that may symbolize your body, or of course your way of moving through the world, right? Because usually we're in cars moving through our world. That's our way of transportation. That's our way of getting around. So this car could be the physical body, the way you get around in the world, or your attitude towards getting around in the world. So it's interesting to think about the type of car, the shape, the style, right? What is that indicative of? It's obviously subjective. But another thing to look at is what's happening while you're driving. Are you in traffic? Traffic could be symbolizing a way in which you are slowed down in an aspect of your life. How do you feel about the traffic is another thing. So like, if you're not really worried about it and you're just like, okay, well, I'm going to get there eventually, that would be a good sign, right? Because you're in your psyche, you're probably, perhaps, if the traffic is symbolizing a way in which part of your life has slowed down, it could represent that you're not too worried about it, that you know eventually you'll get to where you need to go. Oppositely, if you are really frustrated at the traffic, maybe there are ways in which you need to look at how you relate to challenges in getting to where you want to go in life, right? Another thing that you might encounter driving is construction. In what ways, or is there something in your life that is in development? And then, of course, pay attention to how you feel about the construction. Are you then, there's a lot of traffic and you can't get around the construction, it's blocking a lane and you're really, upset about this. You could be having a hard time wrestling with whatever this growth in your life that's happening or development that's going on. You could be perhaps having a harder time, So what about a parking lot? Are you trying to find a place to park yourself, to rest, right? Why do we go to parking lots? We go to chill, right? For our car goes to chill. So that could be indicative of needing a place to rest. Are you locked out of a car or locked out of a building? that might symbolize ways in which you're feeling locked out of an aspect of your personality, an aspect of life in general, an aspect of the world that you just can't quite access. So could be things to look at in there. Let's move on to animals. Animals have a variety of meanings. We can look at them mythologically. We can look at them through our personal associations to that animal and its own physical characteristics. So let me do another quote. This is from Jungstop.com, Dr. Andy Drymalski. He has this blog that talks about Jungian stuff, and he says, quote, "Animals that appear in our dreams sometimes function as symbols of the self," the big S, self. Carl Jung, and I'm still quoting, Carl Jung's term for the core of the psyche. The animals include snakes, owls, ducks, geese, swans, frogs, turtles, whales, dolphins, porpoises, fish, bugs, and bees. To that list, we could also add the following: lions, tigers, and bears. Oh my. For they are the rulers of their animal communities, just like the self, capital S, is meant to be the ruler of the psyche. And then he goes on, and the article is not super informative, but I will have a link to it, where he talks more about animals. Okay, so dogs. Let's go to dogs, because a lot of us have dreams about dogs, and I love dogs. So dogs tread between the realms of the instinctual and the domestic, right? Because they were wolves, and now they are our tiny furry friends that we love so much. And the mythological symbolism of dogs tends to be guardians of the realm of the dead. So like the three-headed dog in Greek mythology that's at the door of Hades, and then Anubis in Egyptian mythology. So they're in that space between living and dead, wild or domestic, and in instinctual, between the known and the unknown. So having dogs that are familiar to you, so like say your dog that has passed away, if he or she is in there, your personal associations to the dog will of course add depth and breadth to the symbolism of this animal. But in general, we can think about them as a way to access our instincts. So, you know how dogs sort of like can sniff out whether a person is good or bad, or just get to the bottom of the truth or situation. So a lot of times they're representative of our helpful instincts. Pay attention to whether the animal, whatever animal it might be, whether it's sick or healthy. This can represent the health of our instincts. So, yeah, that's something to look into. Also, This Union Life had a great episode a couple weeks ago about a dream where a woman had come across her dog that she had accidentally left in a cupboard for years and years, or something like this. And so like animals that we have neglected, I have a lot of those dreams too. And I think they were talking about that possibly being indicative of a way that we have sort of abandoned part of our psyche. I don't know, just that's probably not as helpful as it seemed to be in my head there. Okay, let's go to the snake. Remember my episode Snakes and Tornadoes? We talked a bit about the Ouroboros, I think that's how you say it. The snake eating its own tail. It's representative of the life, death, rebirth cycle. So snakes can symbolize all sorts of stuff, including that. Also including wisdom or health, like for the symbol of hospitals and pharmacies and stuff, there's the two snakes wrapped around the staff or whatnot. Prehistory, snakes are usually related to the dragon or the serpent, the sea monster. And then we, of course, get into all of the connotations with the unconscious, the chaotic sea of unknown, So, and also that's usually feminized, made more feminine, which is really unfortunate. But because then it got like negative and this whole, I don't know, we'll go into it in a different episode, and we'll probably go into snakes more because the next episode I'm going to look at the Garden of Eden story. Very excited about that. So we'll talk a little bit more about the symbolism of snakes then. But just as a quick 1-2, it could be health, wisdom. Oh, also, there's this idea that there's always a medicine in the dream if the dream gets completed, not like if we're woken up halfway through a dream. And for example, the medicine might come in a way that we don't think would be helpful, like a snake bite. So, but your character in the dream doesn't die. But it probably hurts a lot, So it's like the venom is actually a medicine that's going through our veins, and it's eventually going to help us see differently in some way. But it's still a snake bite. It still hurts, but it's somehow medicine for our dream self to come to a new conclusion. All right, so that's some animal stuff. Let's go to clothing. What you are wearing in a dream can symbolize your relationship between yourself or your one aspect of yourself and the world, or one aspect of yourself and another aspect of yourself. So let's say you're clothed really, really head to toe, really warm clothing. Are you then in some way protecting part of yourself from another part? Are you, like forming a barrier between yourself and the world? Are you hiding within this clothing? You know what I mean? Oppositely, if you're wearing like a bikini in a crowd, like, do you feel vulnerable? Like, is there a way that your self is too close to the outside world? Things like that. Okay, so that's clothes. Let's go to accessories, glasses. If you have a dream where you're wearing like your mom or dad's glasses, this can indicate that you are seeing through the eyes of the parental complex, or through the eyes that's like it's not your position, or it's not a conclusion that you've come to, but it's you're taking on the lens of your parents or your dad or your mom or whatever. Another one is like if you're wearing really funny glasses, that could indicate that you're looking at a situation in like through childlike eyes, not being very mature in your view on something. Does that make sense? Yeah, so those are glasses. We also have a lot of dreams about shoes for some reason. And I think that's just sort of like, I'm going to walk a mile in so-and-so's shoes and see how that is. I think a lot of times our unconscious uses shoes to talk about like transitional times, or, like if you find shoes that don't fit, or you can't find your shoes, but there's like 100 other pairs of shoes that are around, then you just can't like find one that fits, or can't find the right style or whatever. That can indicate transition, indicate how you adapt to navigate through life situations. Many dreams, many shoe dreams reflected a concern for individuality as well as appropriateness. And that's from Henry Reed, a Jungian from 1989. Well, he did this like dream project or whatever. Okay. Death, seeing death in dreams. Now, the dying of a person is not indicative of like an actual human dying. It's usually whatever that human represents, or whatever the thing is that dies, is usually like an attitude or a a view, a stance. Something has to give way, right? Something has to die. It's not actual death. It's just the symbol, right? Okay, seeing your exes, your ex-lovers. What does that mean? Are you really thinking about them? Probably not. It could be most often. It's something about the time in your life in which you were with that person, or what that person symbolizes for you in your own life. So exes probably mean the mindset that you had at the time that you were dating, or something about your personality, something about maybe the job that you had during that time. Really, it's just a way, I find, it's a way of your brain or the dream maker to bring you to a certain feeling or experience or situation. It's just like, it's just this marvelous symbolic language. I don't know. I just can't. It's amazing. Okay, seasons. So let's say you're in a dream and in reality, like outside, it's pretty nice out, but in the dream, it's like blustery and cold and it's winter. That could indicate that there is some area of your life that is stuck or stagnant. Like we talked about water, and how if water is snow or ice, it indicates that something isn't moving, isn't flowing in your life, probably. So if things start to move and start to flow, you may find that your dreams change into like springtime, right? New growth could be, like if you're dreaming and the environment is spring, it could indicate new growth is happening. You can do that for all the seasons, right? Fall, you could be harvesting things. Something in your life is being harvested, so you can pay attention to the seasons, of course. Money often represents energy. So like, where are you paying for something? Where are you putting your energy? This was an interesting one, turning left versus turning right. In this episode, I think it was... I forgot his name, but prominent Jungian was talking about in your dream, if you're turning right, it's toward consciousness. If you're turning left, it's towards something that is unconscious. I thought that was pretty cool. All right, numbers. We touched on this last and talked about angel numbers, but Jung had some things to say about numbers, and I'm going to give you a big quote from the Jungian Center for Spiritual Sciences, whatever that means. The article that I was reading had a great bibliography of all these quotes of his, and yet it didn't tell me who it was written by. So I'll just have a link to that. But this is the quote that I wanted to share. And then it's full of like mini quotes. But so if you're watching, you can see me do the quotes for when I'm quoting within the quote. Otherwise, I'll just give you the main quote. So, quote, Jung also recognized that numbers are symbols of the self coming to consciousness, with the first four numbers in particular symbolizing different phases of the journey of the self, different expressions of its transformation. The number 3 denotes the surface or flatness, whereas 4 means height or depth. The numbers 1, 2, and 3 characterize or produce incorporeal intelligences. 2 is associated with opposites. Example, left, right, favorable, unfavorable, good, or bad. End quote, end quote. All of it done. This author, who we don't know, also recommended looking at Dane Rudyard's book, Astrological Mandala, which amplifies the symbols and meanings for the 360 degrees of a circle. So that could be cool. I don't have that. We got a Mushi up here. You gonna have a seat, honey? Lay down, please. Oh, that's a good boy. You're pretty close to the mic, though. Let's move you over. Okay, last thing we're going to talk about is some colors. So colors are also kind of self-explanatory. Like green is like new life. Jung had this thing called the 4 color energies. Sorry, my sweet, sweet dog is taking over here. So I'm going to just go back. Carl Jung and the 4 color energies. Okay, so Swiss psychologist Carl Jung built on the work of Hippocrates and defined the 4 temperaments in terms of colors: cool blue, earth green, sunshine yellow, and fiery red. Now, everyone has all of the color energies in their personality to differing degrees, but depending on the situation, our different color energies and the qualities associated with them will be present at various times. So, for cool blue, it was showing no bias, objective, detached, analytical. Earth green was still, tranquil, calming, soothing. Sunshine yellow is cheerful, uplifting, spirited, and enthusiastic. And fiery red was positive, decisive, bold, and assertive. Use that how you will. I don't know. I think that there's probably a simpler way of looking at colors, and not in terms of personality, that we can look at, but I don't have the information right here. So that's basically it. Here's some symbols. I'm very excited for the book Dreamwise to come out, and then hopefully I can give you some more resources, or everyone can just buy that book too. And I hope that you remember to try all of the different ways to work with your dream, whether that's dancing, drawing, working with the text to find metaphors, going into the space of the dream and feeling how it feels, looking for mythological stories that relate, thinking of what's happening in our culture. And I just can't overstate the value that dreams give us. And I know that it seems like not every dream contains multitudes, and maybe that's right. I think that they all do, but just try picking some stuff out. See if there's anything that you can realize in your waking life, you know? Yeah, let's work on our dreams. Let's change the world for the better. Let's all grow. And thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. I have a Patreon now, so if you want to support the podcast, you can go to patreon.com/Emily Oman. Otherwise, we also have Instagram. All the things. Like, subscribe, review would be great. Would be so great. Next week, Garden of Eden. Very exciting. Talk to you later.